This is it, ladies and gentlemen. Globally, we are at an impasse. The president is deciding as we are speaking that, well, maybe he decided right after this video was made, but as of right now, at the time of recording this, the president of the United States is trying to decide on what the United States' involvement will be in the Iran and Israel situation. This is very important, especially to Canadians, because historically, any single time America gets involved with the conflict, Canada goes in and supports, because that's just part of our trade and security agreement. Not only with NATO, but literally sharing a border with America. We are the little brother to the United States. Doesn't matter how many times our prime minister says our relationship with America is over as we know it. No, it's not. And through hardship comes a new solidarity that was not there before. And so if America does get involved, Canada will also rapidly have a form of involvement, either by supplying military equipment and or doing boots on the ground. But yes, Canada will very likely be deployed if this does escalate. So we're going to be taking a look at that in the first half of the video, and the second half is just strictly going to be about Canadian news. So I hope you stick around for the full thing. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you all to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It does really help grow the channel. Without further ado, let's get right into this video, starting off with Fox News and see what they have to say about President Trump's current decision. Here we go.
We bring in retired four-star General Joseph Votel. During his nearly 4 decades of service in the Army, he led Special Operations Command and Central Command, overseeing military operations in the Middle East. He's a distinguished military fellow at the Middle East Institute. General, very good to have you back on the program today. So you hear this discussion that it appears that the president, and of course he could change his mind on this at any moment, they're in discussions right now in the Situation Room, but it appears that the sending the Vice President, J.D. Vance, and Steve Witkoff, his Middle East envoy, to have one more discussion with Iran appears to be a bit taking a back seat at this point, and we see these military assets moving now. What is your assessment of where things are and how long it might take to actually see this kind of strike that's being considered on Fordo?
Yeah, thanks, Martha. It's great to be with you. I think what we're seeing right now is the president trying to take maximum leverage opportunity here of the situation that's been created by the very devastating Israeli strikes and that have really rendered the air defense capability of Iran mute and have really begun to have impacts not just on the nuclear weapons program, but on the military overall. And I think the president sees that this may be an opportunity for us to get to an end state that we've been after for a long time. That is Iran not having a nuclear weapon. So in my view, I think he is trying to put as much leverage, as much pressure as possible on the Iranian regime right now.
Yeah, it's very interesting, the word that you use, and we hear him talk about control of the skies, and that's because these Israeli attacks have been so effective in knocking out Iranian defense systems, and they have a clear run into the country, which has never happened before. They also have none of their proxies active in this fight. No Hezbollah, no Houthis, none of that is impairing the ability to get at this site. With all of your experience in the Middle East, is this an opportunity that should not be passed by, in your opinion?
Well, it's certainly a very unique situation. I mean, many of the assumptions that we've had about the Middle East and about Iran have largely disappeared. The fact that Hezbollah in the past could hold Israel at risk if they chose to do something like this has completely disappeared. The seemingly invincibility of the Iranian air defense system and the effectiveness of their ballistic missile program is, with some exceptions into Israel, of course, has largely not manifested itself. So it is a key opportunity. Now, whether we choose to follow through with that militarily or whether we choose to put more pressure on it and approach it diplomatically, of course, is a decision for the President of the United States, and one that I'm sure is being discussed at this very minute in the White House.
What is your sense, having worked in this region for so long, of the Ayatollah and how much of his own military infrastructure and his personal support structure. His chief of staff was taken out yesterday, I believe. He's 86 years old. You know, what is your sense of what he will do at this sense, having watched him over all these years?
Yeah, I think a lot of the sources of power and influence for him are going away very, very quickly. Not just subordinate leaders, but his control over the people, I think, is very much compromised at this particular point. So his authority as the supreme leader, I think, is being diminished. Now, he's been in place for a long time. There still is a lot. It still largely is a police state. So he does exert some control over the population, but that has certainly been diminished. And the Iranian people are now seeing the result of his policies being played out in their own streets on a regular basis. At least.
Yeah, I mean, this has nothing to do with the Iranian people per se. It's more to do with the regime. Now, there was a regime change many years ago, I think between the 60s and the 80s, somewhere in there. And it seems like it might be due for another one. And I would just love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Do you agree with America getting involved? Do you disagree? It seems like this is very much split the right. You're seeing a lot of American creators coming out of the woodworks, the biggest of the biggest American political creators, saying that this isn't what, like Alex Jones, like this isn't what people voted for. They didn't vote for Trump to get involved in the war. We don't want to fight a war for Israel. We're not dying for Israel. We're not sending our kids there. Our brothers are. We're not doing that. But on the flip side, if Iran or the regime is making nuclear weapons or weapons of mass destruction, which was the same excuse for going into Iraq, then what do you do? Do you let them continue to build, or do you take some sort of immediate action? So again, it's kind of splitting the right. But we're just going to wait how this plays out. But that's Fox News and the American side of things. Let's now take a look at Canada's side of the coverage, specifically CBC.
Israel's military appears to be signaling there will be no let-up in its airstrikes on Iran. It's claiming Iran's military leadership is now, quote, on the run. But senior Iranian commanders dispute that claim, insisting they'll keep striking back at Israel. This video from Tel Aviv shows Israeli air defenses firing at another wave of incoming Iranian missiles. Israeli forces estimate Iran has fired more than 400 ballistic missiles since last Friday. Since returning to Washington, Donald Trump has been closely monitoring developments, and he's also been commenting in several posts online. The CBC's Sasha Petrusik is in the U.S. Capitol, closely watching what the U.S. president is saying.
The whole question started with whether he was leaving the G7 meeting because there was potentially a ceasefire that was being worked out between Iran and Israel, or whether it's something else. And the something else, presumably, is U.S. military involvement in the region, which is the main speculation here in Washington today. Will the Americans enter this war that seems to be escalating between Iran and Israel after only 4 days? This is what he had to say on Air Force One. And you can see that Donald Trump is putting out several different ideas, or at least they.
So a bit of a correction there. This hasn't been a 4-day war. This has been ongoing even before October 7th of 2024, right? This has been going on for quite some time. So to say a 4-day war is a little bit disingenuous.
They seem to be flowing through his head as he's talking about what could be done about Iran. Let's listen to this.
There's reports that you want to send the vice president and Steve Witkoff to meet with the Iranians and have discussions. Is that something you're considering?
Not sure yet. I may. Depends on what happens when I get back.
What specifically is better than a ceasefire? What are you looking for here?
An end. A real end, not a ceasefire. An end.
So something that would be permanent?
Yeah, or giving up entirely.
Is that
okay too?
Are you closer? Is that possible? Is that possible in the next 24
Why not? Certainly possible.
So what is better than a ceasefire? What is not a ceasefire? Well, as I say, the speculation here is that that means the United States enters militarily. And there are a number of posts that Donald Trump made this morning which seem to be pointing in that direction. Within the course of 1 hour, he posted most recently unconditional surrender aimed at the Iranians. He had another post where he talked about going after the Iranian so-called supreme leader, presumably talking about Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Trump was saying that we know exactly where the supreme leader is hiding. He's an easy target. We're not going to kill him now, not at least for now. But basically the bottom line is our patience is wearing thin. That's what he posted. And we now have complete and total control of the skies over Iran. That is something that Israel has been boasting about for a while. But from Donald Trump, the point is that this was done with U.S. military equipment. We have more of it, that it was all American-made and conceived and manufactured, and nobody does that better than the good old USA. In other words, bringing the U.S. right into the middle of all of this. And as I say, all of this was posted within the period of 1 hour, which means that that is where presumably his head is at, unless he is trying to use this to pressure Iran for some kind of a deal. He's in the Situation Room right now, Donald Trump.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a deal is actually going to happen, right? That's been said over and over again. Doesn't seem like Iran and the regime wants to come to the table and actually discuss anything. And the amount of military force that the United States has already deployed and continues to deploy is extremely crucial in this story, in this narrative. If it were just about peace talks, there wouldn't be all of the Middle Eastern bases, the United States Middle Eastern bases, on high alert, which they are right now. You wouldn't have B-52 bombers being deployed to the Indian Ocean like they already have. You wouldn't have aircraft carriers being deployed, which has already happened. You wouldn't have dozens and dozens of fighter jets, USA fighter jets being deployed, which has already happened. So again, I want to pass a question off to you. Do you think that this is actually the start of World War III, or do you think that this is a nothing burger? Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. In other news, in Canadian news, let's get back to the G7, where Mark Carney had this to say at the round table.
Leaders in so many aspects from Australia, partners in security, partners of the G7, partners in the future of energy and beyond. We have a very important agenda together, but it's a sign of the maturity, I think, of the G7 that we come together for common problems in energy security, common opportunities in new technologies from information technologies, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, the need to have reliable supplies, that this table can produce reliable supplies in critical minerals for the future. And ways to find partnership for true development and, under your control, President Lula, sustainable development and how we'll work together. Thank you for coming to Canada. Thank you for coming to this G7. Canada is your partner in all these aspects, and we're all stronger together. So, on a beaucoup à faire. We have lots to do. So I thank you, the members of the media, for your presence and for your amplification of the progress that we're going to make together. And with that, we're going to get to work. At all.
We're going to get to work. We're going to get to work by sending Ukraine, or pledging Ukraine, another $4.3 billion, $2 billion up front and another 2.3 from Russian seized/frozen assets. So there you go. We keep funding the Russian and Ukraine war by giving to Ukraine, yet we're not putting money into ourselves, at least not at the rate that we should be. With the ongoing conflicts, with the escalation of everything that's been going on, you would think that Canada's leader would be prioritizing us here and now instead of somebody else's war. But hey, that's liberals for you. I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments about that. Next up, speaking of liberals, liberal MPs had this to say. A new EV rebate program is in the works, Environment Minister says. Straight from Ottawa, Environment Minister Zhu Li tells the Canadian press that the government will bring back a consumer rebate program to help make electric vehicles more affordable. This is kind of funny because I don't remember how big the rebate used to be, but it felt like if you got a Tesla, right when Tesla started to get rolled out in like 2017, 2018, 2019, you would get like a $20,000 rebate on like a $40,000 car. So you get like almost half price on the car. And then that number I might be exaggerating it. It might be accurate. It might be a little bit off, but it was somewhere in the crazies. And now I think the rebate's like $2,000 or $3,000 or something under a $50,000 car purchase price. So yeah, weird. But again, Canada keeps incentivizing EVs and it's not going the way that they want it to. The federal government's former rebate program for electric vehicles launched in 2019 was so popular it ran out of funding, leading Ottawa to pause it earlier this year. So Zhu Li, this Minister of Environment, also indicated Canada's electric vehicle mandate, which states all luxury duty passenger vehicles sold off the lot must be zero emissions by 2035, and that won't be changing. So they are still trying to ban gasoline and diesel vehicles. It has to be EVs by 2035, which is crazy. Where are we going to get that energy? We don't have that infrastructure, man. What is wrong with Canadian politicians? Conservatives spent Tuesday in Ottawa calling the mandate to be scrapped, citing concerns about an auto sector threatened by U.S. tariffs. It's a very real thing. The Liberals ran in the recent federal election on a pitch to encourage Canadians to make greener choices after Prime Minister Mark Carney cut the consumer carbon tax rate to zero. He didn't really cut it. He paused it. And now we're finding out that gas prices are still going up. So whatever he did is not working. In the first 4 months of this year, around 8% of all new vehicles sold in Canada were zero emissions. I think that a large portion of EV sales in Canada are Tesla. And then with everything that went on with the American tariffs and the trade war and Elon Musk, you had a real push by government officials in Canada to be boycotting Tesla, which is crazy because they are the leading EV company in the world. So it's weird that the government of Canada wants you to buy electric as long as the politics of the company selling the electric vehicles align with the Liberal government. It's weird. It sounds a bit like a hoax. It really, really does when you put it in those terms. But again, I'd love to know your guys' thoughts and comments down below. What do you guys think of EVs? Personally, I kind of like the idea of EVs, but I have a bias. I lived in a van for like 5 years, and a lot of my van was powered by solar, which I installed. The solar panels, the wires that come down to the charge controller, everything. I did it myself. I had some help, and I upgraded my system as time went on. And so I like electric. I like solar panels. I have a bit of a bias. Now, do I think everybody should be driving EV by the year 2035 or ever? No, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But for like Tesla vehicles, I think those are kind of cool. I mean, they're slick looking. They're very techy. They're super fast with acceleration. They're kind of like a toy. But again, I just have a personal bias. We can agree to disagree. What I do disagree with heavily, though, is the mandate of forcing people to go a certain way. I have a Hemi pickup truck. I like that truck. I really do. It gets the job done. You can't load the amount of stuff into my truck that you could an EV. You just can't. It's not going to work that way. But anyways, away from EVs and electric nonsense, let's now take a look here at Andrew Lawton, who used to be the representative of True North Social Media, has this to say in a committee hearing. The Liberals just forced the Justice Committee to adjourn for the summer in its first meeting without as much as discussing crime. Insane. First day on the job and they end for the summer. Isn't that wild?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the Liberals' belief that adjournment should take place immediately, I am new to the House of Commons, and I was elected, as were all of us on the Conservative side, in large part due to our desire to have safer streets in this country and our desire to get serious about bail. And the number of people that brought up the urgency to them and to their communities on the crime situation was absolutely staggering. Now, look, I accept that the Liberals won this election. The Conservatives had argued that members of Parliament should sit through the summer because all of these issues that are facing our country are still here regardless of the outcome of the election. And I do not think it would be opportune for any of us, including my Liberal colleagues, to pack up this committee's work for 3 months without having done a single thing to help the crime-riddled communities of our country. And I speak on behalf of my own constituents in Elgin, St. Thomas, London South, but all Canadians. So I think adjournment is entirely inappropriate when we have Canadians that have elected us to get serious about this. And I actually don't think any of these members want to face their own constituents over the next 2.5 months and say that I chose to not even listen, not even debate a motion about some of these issues because I thought it was easier to start my summer vacation early.
Right. That is, I mean, that's wild. Like Pierre Poilievre literally campaigned on the fact that if he won, him and the Conservative Party would have not ever left Parliament for the entire summer. They would have worked through the entire summer. It seems like Conservatives just want to get things done. Cut through the politics, cut through the bureaucracy, cut through the whole, game, the theater of it, and just get shit done. Whereas Liberals enjoy the little song and dance and enjoy the process, enjoy the whining and dining, enjoy the summer vacations and the very little amount of work. And it's just frustrating that our country keeps voting in this stupidity. But I'd love to know your guys' thoughts and comments down below. To wrap up this video, we're going to take a look at the most recent question period highlights. Here we go. Oral questions. Guess on. Honorable representative of the Conservative Party.
The cost of vehicles by over $20,000 and kill 40,000 high-paying Canadian jobs. Well, that's exactly what these Liberals are doing with their mandate to eliminate the gas-powered vehicles starting to take effect next year. Workers and families across Canada, especially in rural and northern communities, can't afford this dangerous Liberal experiment. It's simple, Mr. Speaker. Canadians don't want this shoved down their throat. Tonight, will the Liberals vote to immediately end their radical ban on gas-powered vehicles immediately?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, leave it to the Conservatives to hit one of the most major industries that we have in our country exactly at the same time as it's getting hit by unjustified tariffs in the United States. We stand with our auto workers. We've been investing in our auto industry, and we will keep making sure that we have strong union jobs in our autos.
Projects 50,000 job losses in the auto sector because of trade uncertainty. But rather than providing the auto sector with any kind of certainty, these Liberals are doubling down on their risky and dangerous EV mandate. Ford and GM are pleading with the government to end the insanity. Industry projects that the Liberal ban on the gas-powered engine will cost an additional 40,000 high-paying Canadian jobs. The combination of the Liberals' inability to get a deal on tariffs and their self-imposed radical EV mandate will destroy Canada's auto sector. So will the Liberals join us today and call
the Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, we will take no lessons
We take no lessons from the Conservatives. To the applause. We will force people to drive electric vehicles.
The auto sector, Mr. Speaker. Even Bloomberg ranked Canada first in the world for the EV supply chain, Mr. Speaker. We should all be celebrating. We're going to fight for the industry. We're going to fight for our workers. We're going to fight for Canada strong, Mr. Speaker.
We believe in EVs except for Elon Musk.
And on this side of the House, we will take no lessons for them. We will stand up for Canadians freedom of choice. Right. Choice to drive the vehicle that suits their needs. Choice to drive the vehicle that they need for their family. That's what this side of the House will stand for. We're talking.
Excuse me, honourable member. I missed. If the member could, I couldn't hear anything. If the member could back up just a little bit, the member could start over. Could you start over? Could the member start over? More or less, wherever you want to start from.
Take control of the House, you cottonhead. Come on.
I couldn't hear. I'm sorry.
What is this?
I'm sorry. You gotta bring the House under control.
The member has the floor. Would you like to ask a question?
I appreciate that. Mr. Speaker, these Liberals over here do not believe in the freedom of choice that Canadians should have when it comes to the vehicle that they drive. Right now, they have a mandate in place that makes it so that Canadians will have to buy EVs. They will have to. But that does not fit the needs of Canadian families. And especially at this time when Canadian families are struggling to make ends meet, they cannot afford the additional $20,000 that this mandate will add to their bill when they go to purchase a new car. Right now, this government has an option, and that is to vote with Conservatives to relinquish their ban on gas-powered vehicles. Will they?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, what I will do is stand up for our auto workers all across our country. Stand up for a strong auto industry. I will stand up to make sure that we're climate competitive and going where the world is moving, which if they actually looked at studies, globally, EV sales are up. So if the members opposite actually care about making sure that we are standing up for our auto workers, I hope that they will stand up with us to make sure that we are protecting the industry.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Lethbridge.
If you're going to stand up for auto workers, if the Liberal government is truly going to stand with auto workers, then stop making the very vehicles that they're producing illegal.
Hey! And bring down the cost of gasoline.
In my community of Lethbridge, a farmer cannot drive an EV to go pick up seed or drive an EV to go harvest their crop.
10 seconds.
Families in my community need choice when it comes to the vehicle that they will drive. Will the Liberals stand with Canadians and relinquish their ban on gas-powered cars?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, maybe just as a point of clarification about the regulation that they're talking about, which is not as they describe, let us be clear that there is no ban on gas-powered vehicles. They can read the regulation. So if we want to be clear, what we are doing is making sure that EVs are available to Canadians. 546,000 Canadians accessed our rebate to be able to purchase the vehicles because they wanted them.
Mr. Speaker, a so-called safe injection site backed by this Liberal government became the scene of a broad daylight drug shootout. A mother walking by was killed, yet the staff member at the site who helped the shooters escape, shockingly, won't serve a single day behind bars. Wow. This wasn't about harm reduction. It was chaos, violence, and death in a residential neighborhood. Will this Liberal government finally accept responsibility for these sites becoming crime magnets and ending the dangerous policies putting Canadians at risk?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The drug crisis across Canada and North America has impacted many communities, and there isn't a community that we represent that hasn't gone through challenges. With respect to the matter in question, Mr. Speaker, it is something that was made by an independent adjudicator, and I won't be able to comment on that.
The Honourable Member for Brantford, Brent South, Six Nations.
After a decade of this Liberal government, serious violent crime has soared, but so has leniency. A mother is dead, and the so-called harm reduction worker who helped the accused killer gets to serve her sentence from home and to enjoy her gym membership. Wow. What kind of justice system does the Prime Minister believe in? One that protects victims or one that rewards criminals? And to correct what the crime minister had to say, there is no mandatory minimum for extortion because she and her government voted in favor of C5. Right. Will the Liberals finally take responsibility for their soft on crime agenda?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, this new government was given a strong mandate from Canadians to keep our communities safe, and we will do exactly that. We're committed to hiring 1,000 new CBSA officers, 1,000 more RCMP personnel to secure our borders, to keep our streets safe. We'll make it tougher for violent criminals to get bail and impose stricter sentences for repeat violent offenders. Mr. Speaker, this government is acting quickly. We brought in C2 immediately to provide policing with the tools necessary to catch criminals.
The honourable member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Mr. Speaker, extortion is up 357% across Canada. In the GTA, 18 suspects were arrested in a major extortion bust. Firearms, ammunition, and $4.2 million seized in assets. And get this, half of the suspects were already released on bail. Just last week, York Region Police Chief called for urgent bail reform. The Liberals voted against a Conservative bill to crack down on extortion and reintroduce mandatory minimums. Will the Prime Minister stop siding with criminals and support our plan to keep violent criminals in jail?
Great question. The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, once again, yesterday was a good day. Project Outsource was a big bust, and it's why our government is committed to introducing new legislation that will toughen bail rules for serious offenses and ensure that sentences match the severity of crimes. Mr. Speaker, we're working hard to make sure law enforcement has the tools it needs to investigate, to catch, to prosecute, and to put criminals behind bars.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for York Centre.
Speaker, after a decade of this Liberal government, crime in Toronto is out of control. Last night in North York, what began as an armed carjacking at the shops of Don Mills turned into a police pursuit and a man jumping off the Gardiner Expressway. The Liberals turned Toronto into Grand Theft Auto real-life edition. Liberal Bill C5 and C75 let criminals out on bail instead of locking them up and keeping us safe. So I ask, Speaker, when will the Liberals repeal their soft on bail regime and start protecting Canadians from violent criminals?
Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, this new government is committed to working collaboratively with the provinces to ensure that our bail system works. Mr. Speaker, bail is administered by the provinces through provincial judges in provincial courts and by Crown provincial prosecutors. Mr. Speaker, they too should be given the resources and the tools that are needed, and they should have the space that is necessary to hold these criminals accountable.
That, ladies and gentlemen, concludes this video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you did, it'd be super awesome for you guys to take the time right now to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in another video. Bye for now.